It's another wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Fallout spoilers have just started to pop up, and they are absolutely mind-blowing. We've got broken creatures, insane board wipe, and even a radioactive squirrel.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to take a look at the absolute insanity that is the upcoming Fallout set. We've got a bunch of crazy cards to look at. Some of them are going to make Fallout fans very, very happy because on top of being extremely powerful cards, these cards really do genuinely evoke Fallout flavor. So, with no further ado, let's enjoy some cardboard rectangles. We're starting out today with absolute insanity in the form of Liberty Prime Recharged. This is not just a powerful card, but a character with a very cool backstory. 1 white, 1 red, 1 blue, and 2 gets you an 8/8 legendary artifact robot creature that has vigilance, trample, and haste. But there's a catch. Whenever he attacks or blocks, you have to sacrifice him unless you pay 2 energy counters. And this is not something we normally see with modern Magic design. Most of the time, it's pure upside. Back in the original days of Magic, big creatures tended to actually have big drawbacks. So it's rare and interesting to see it applied to this card here. Now, in terms of getting the energy, you can literally use Liberty Prime himself to make the energy. 2 untap, sack an artifact, you get 2 energy and draw a card. So you have a couple of different options, right? First of all, you put him out, you use his ability, you get yourself some energy, and you draw a card. Or you've previously done something to build up energy, in which case he just comes in swinging right away. And he has vigilance. So if you can power out a ton of energy, you can use him as much as you want on the attack, on the defense, or you can swing with him, spend the 2 energy, and then immediately after he's attacked, tap him, sack another artifact, you got your 2 energy back, and you've drawn a card. This, once it gets rolling, is going to be absolutely insane. And from a flavor perspective, absolute home run. Liberty Prime is a walking doomsday machine. He was built to win wars. Now, you can't tell from the scope of the artwork, but this guy would basically walk in and just throw nukes at you, walk through your buildings, destroy everything. There's no point in having an army when you have Liberty Prime. But the problem with Liberty Prime is that it takes a crazy amount of energy to power him. So for most of Liberty Prime's history, he was just in development. Nobody could get the power systems to work. It took many, many years before he was finally online and ready to go. But once he was, ultimate power. And on top of that, the flavor concept is he is ultra pro-America. So the fact that his flavor text is white, red, and blue, absolutely perfect. The flavor text says, democracy is non-negotiable. And that's his attitude, right? You have no choice. America is the best. You will be democratized against your will, if that's what it takes. This robot was designed to battle against China for domination of Alaska. So it spouts insane phrases and says things like, better dead than red. And it has red in the casting cost, which I have to admit is an amusing little tweak. But overall, this is a home run as a Fallout design. Now, let's move on to another gigantic hulking beast. And this in my favorite color, green. I love giant green creatures. This is Agent Frank Horrigan. 1 green, 1 black, and 5 for this 8/6 monstrosity. He's a legendary mutant warrior. Once he was human, but they experimented on him over and over until he turned into this gigantic mutant beast. But he just considers everybody else to be mutants. He's actually the end boss of the second Fallout game. So he has a huge casting cost, right? 1 green, 1 black, and 5 for an 8/6 trample. He has indestructible as long as he's attacked this turn. And when he enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to proliferate twice. So you choose any number of permanents and players and then give them another counter of each kind they already have. That's a wild ability. This all comes together in a crazy way. The casting cost, admittedly, is pretty high comparatively, but once you get him up and running, he's just a gigantic smasher. And for extra flavor fun, you can play the magic card Saw in Half on him, right? Because ultimately at the end of the game, this guy gets cut in half. So you can play Saw in Half on him and he will survive being sawed in half, which actually is what happens to him. When he gets cut in half, he doesn't immediately go out because his armor is pumping all these crazy chemicals and stuff into him that keep him going. So there's another fun level of flavor on top of him being just this huge hulking beast and the artwork screaming the post-apocalyptic doom, right? In either hand, he's got something that's gonna end you. That is some serious flavor. After that, we've got Vault 112, Sadistic Simulation. This is an interesting one. 1 red, 1 blue, and 2. When this one enters your battlefield, you know how it works with sagas. You put the counters on them each turn. So for the first and second turn, you tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it, and you get 2 energy. So you'll notice this costs 1 less than the big 8/8 smashy guy we started with. So you can just go ahead and go, yep, let's use this right here to ramp up the energy. But the third ability says pay any amount of energy. If you paid 1 or more this way, shuffle your library, then exile that many cards from the top. You can play one of those cards without paying its mana cost. This one is a really weird one in terms of the way the flavor and everything ties together. Like, first of all, you have to pay 4 mana, and the original payoff is that you just get to tap and stun a creature and get 2 energy counters, which feels like a steep cost. By the time you get to the second turn from it, now you've gotten 4 energy and you've stunned 2 creatures. So that feels a little bit better. But the free spell off the top of your deck could be pretty gross if you manipulate it into the right spot. This card almost feels like an uncommon to me from the power level, but it could be insane. In terms of the actual flavor of it, the idea here is this vault specifically was populated by people that were put into a virtual reality. So they're put into stasis pods, and then they're entered into this reality that's supposed to be their paradise. But the problem is there's only one person who's actually in control of it all. So once these individuals entered into their pods and went into the simulation, they surrendered their ability to control their own existence, including not being able to exit the simulation. So the doctor who was in charge of the simulation, after creating paradises for people and stuff like that, he started to get bored. So then he just started torturing and wiping them out. And after they went through all this, he would just wipe their minds and start again. So they all just essentially became like playthings for this crazy twisted doctor when this was supposed to be an experimental paradise. That is a really, really cool concept. And in terms of the actual flavor of the card, the first 2 abilities, tapping creatures, putting stun counters on them, that totally feels like putting people in the pod and getting the energy from it. I mean, I don't think that their energy, I don't know if their bioenergy was used to sustain that, so I'm not 100% sure how that ties in. The flavor isn't 100% on this one, but it is interesting, and you can see the artwork depicting what's going on as well. Moving on, we've got Nuclear Fallout. This one is wild on so many levels. This is some crazy board wipe. 2 black and X. Each creature gets twice -X until end of turn. Each player gets X rad counters. If you don't remember rad counters from the previous Fallout spoiler video that I did, it works like this. Every turn, you're going to have to mill a card for every rad counter that you have. If you hit a land card, then nothing happens. The land just goes to your graveyard. You keep the rad counter. If you hit a non-land card, then that non-land card stays in the graveyard, but you lose a rad counter, and you also lose a life from being irradiated. So it will mill and chew down your life. You automatically get milled, and it's near unavoidable life loss. So if you did this for 5, Every creature in play would get -10, and each player would get 5 rad counters. This is so like, I'm just gonna go scorched earth here. I will irradiate myself to wipe you and all of yours out. That's so intense. The flavor text says, the end of the world occurred as predicted. Too many humans, not enough space or resources to go around. The details are trivial and pointless. The reasons, as always, purely human ones. That's some pretty solid flavor text, honestly. And the flavor of the artwork, man. Look at all these glowing, irradiated skulls. You've got the whole... actually, you know what? The people that are represented here, what is the name of that picture? Is it like a American Gothic or something like that? Where you have the farmer and his wife, he's standing there with like a pitchfork. It kind of gives that vibe a bit. Also, the skull as a gigantic meatball on that spaghetti plate kind of vibe is pretty wild. And it's got the little Nuka-Cola bottle on the table. This is a really fun piece of artwork, and this is a really powerful card, honestly. This is a great include for like a cube. Moving on, we've got T45 Power Armor. This one is 2 mana equipment, and when it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Equipped creature gets +3/+3, but doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can pay an energy. If you do untap equipped creature, then put your choice of a menace, trample, or lifelink counter on it, and you equip for 3. This feels weird to me, right? Like, this power armor feels strange. It generates energy on its own, but then the creature doesn't untap. Is there like something wrong with the power armor? Can you not move in it? And then when you untap the creature, you put a permanent counter on it. So even if they take the armor off, they still have trample or lifelink. I'm like, this one's muddy from a flavor perspective, but overall, it seems like it could be fun. It could be combo-rific, really. You've got to build around it and be ready for it. Have a bunch of energy to use. Ultimately, this one for me, I feel is pretty underwhelming. It doesn't really get me geared up, but it does show some Fallout power armor, which I presume is one of the earlier editions of power armor, right? Then we've got Preston Garvey Minuteman. 1 white, 1 green, 1 red, and 2 for a 4/4 legendary human soldier. He has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a green aura enchantment token named Settlement attached to up to 1 target land you control. It has enchant land, and enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any color. This is word salad right here. This is something that's definitely going on with current era Magic. You read it and you go, oh, you really need the tokens that come along with the set to have an idea of what this does, because it makes a token that's in land enchantment that grants an ability to the actual land itself. So it feels a bit strange in that way, but once you get it, it's not that crazy. Just pick a land, slap an enchantment on the land, and that land now taps for a mana of any color. But where it really becomes important that they're turned into these settlements is whenever this guy swings in, you untap each enchanted permanent you control. So you can literally use him with any card that says, pay X mana, untap your guys, you get another attack phase, because this guy, each time you swing, will untap your settlement lands. Now, from a flavor perspective, this is a quest giver dude in the game who basically every time you talk to him, there's always a settlement that is in need of aid. And for people who don't realize it, you just end up getting trapped in a cycle of thinking, oh, I'll just go and help the settlement. But it's just one of those guys where it never, ever ends. So you just have to kind of book it away from him as fast as you can before he assigns a new quest, or there'll constantly be new settlements slapped onto your map that you have to go and help out. And it's interesting to note as well that the way that Wizards has cropped the artwork makes it look like he has like a laser fishing rod, right? Which is strange because they're not shying away from the gigantic doom cannons. I'm not sure, because I've seen the bigger version of this artwork, so I'm not sure exactly why it's cropped like this. But either way, it definitely gives the flavor of this quest giver guy. Moving on, we've got Animal Friend, Mutated Squirrels. This is 1 green and 1 for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Put a +1/+1 counter on that token for each aura and equipment attached to this creature other than Animal Friend. I both love and hate this card, right? I think it's fun that it makes squirrels. I think it's hilarious that the guy's basically like, get him, buddy, and just sicken giant mutated squirrels. Because in the Fallout world, as far as I understand, squirrels aren't actually dangerous, right? You can get them like cooked up on sticks and you can eat them. And then in one game, they're kind of scampering around in one place, but they're completely harmless and they'll just run away from you like regular squirrels. So they're not like these crazy rabid, I'm going to get you. But this guy instead is like trained them. It's like, here we go. I scratch their back. They scratch you. So that's a lot of fun. Where I don't actually like this card is from a play perspective in terms of like, this just paints a huge target on a creature. Like you have to put this on a creature and then you have to put other auras and equipment on that creature so that the tokens that are being made get a bonus, right? And that just makes the creature with all these enchantments a huge target. And that's a hard payoff. You end up either getting 2 for 1, 3 for 1. They get a lot for using their creature destruction spell. That leads to a feel bad moment. So this is a fun flavor that actually references one of the perks in Fallout, but ultimately, to me, is not a card that, like, unless you're using indestructible creatures and have other build-arounds, it's really going to be rough. Then we've got Codsworth, Handy Helper. This guy is crazy. 1 white and 2 for a 2/3 legendary robot, right? Commanders you control have Ward 2. Tap them to add 2 white. Spend this only to cast aura and or equipment spells. My eyebrows raised when I read that. And then I read his second ability. Attach target aura equipment you control to target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. See, if that was an instant speed ability, that'd be amazing with that animal friend thing. You can save a creature. Like when not save a creature, sorry. But when a creature's being destroyed, you can save the auras that are on them and shift them to another creature. But when you can't do it at instant speed, that limits the power. But combine the mana cost of this guy with the fact that he generates 2 mana and lets you move around aura or equipment, that is really, really solid. And the flavor behind this is a robot that served one of the main characters' families of one of the Fallout games. He's essentially a robotic butler. And when you find him in the game, it's been hundreds and hundreds of years since he's seen a member of your family. And he's so overjoyed, like, hooray, I'm glad to be back, proud to serve, right? Like the flavor text says. But underneath it all, you find out that he's not nearly as jubilant as he seems because he was alone for hundreds of years and it's taken a toll on his psyche. Poor Codsworth, but man, the power level on this card is wild. Moving on, we've got Commander Sophia de Guerre. 1 white and 3 for a 1/3 human pilot with flash and the ability Crash Landing. When she enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target legendary permanent. That permanent's controller creates a junk token. And if you don't know what a junk token is, it's an artifact. You tap, you sacrifice it, you exile the top card of your library, and you can play it this turn, which feels like a distinctly red ability, but they're giving it to everything here, right? So the junk token is a nice little side effect. Obviously, the main effect of this chick is the fact that she will smash a legendary permanent. Sometimes you're going to use that to smoke a legendary land, but a lot of the times this is just going to be used in Commander to smash other people's commanders. At instant speed, here she comes, right? So that seems half decently solid. I don't know how much people want to use her overall, but I mean, flash speed, commander destruction, nothing to sneeze at. In terms of the flavor behind it, really solid. Poor Sophia here was sent up as an astronaut. I don't remember how many people were part of the team or whatever. She was sent up as part of a team. These team members were tricked, not knowing that they were going to be placed forcefully into like stasis, essentially. And they were going to be merged with an AI that was meant to connect into their consciousness. So anything any of these people viewed would be accessible through the AI. So that experiment went horribly wrong. In fact, it basically went on for 20 years longer than it was supposed to, something like that. They were left stranded orbitally without knowing what was going on. And then she crashed down to Earth. So that's what's going on with the junk token. That's the spaceship being smashed up. That's pretty cool. I guess the idea is that she steers it straight into your legendary. So if it's a legendary land, it makes more sense. She's got really good aim if she can. Hey, there's Rakdos. Oh, crash into him. Either way, interesting card. After that, we've got Hancock Ghoulish Mayor. He wins a point for totally being somebody you can shove into a regular Magic set. Because if you just took a look at him and went, hey, this is new card from Innistrad, you'd be like, yep, I believe it. 1 black and 2 for a 2/1 legendary zombie mutant advisor. Each other creature you control that's a zombie or a mutant gets +X/+X, where X is the number of counters on him. And he's got Undying, which is a great ability. When the creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, you bring him back with a +1/+1 counter. So after he goes, he comes back, he's automatically going to act as a small boost to your zombies, and you can make him bigger as well if you have other ways to add counters, and then he'll boost up your other guys. And the flavor text, is non-existent on the card. The flavor behind the card is one where Hancock essentially was in politics with his brother, and in the city they were in, his brother was anti-mutant, right? So he was trying to drive them out of town. But Hancock here was pro-mutant. He was trying to help them. And his brother ended up getting in power and then just was like, oh, have at it. Take out these mutants. Who cares? And when he went to talk to his brother about it, his brother was in charge, was just like, get out of here, Hancock. I don't even care, right? So Hancock tried to set up his own preservation society almost to keep mutants and stuff safe, but that failed miserably, and he got like super depressed, and then he ended up just, his life went off the rails, and he took an experimental drug that turned him into a mutant. And then after this protracted experience, he ends up basically ousting his brother as leader, and he becomes the leader, creating a place that's safe for zombies and mutants, right? So overall, interesting backstory, and card that literally just does feel like it could fit straight into Magic very, very easily. Moving on, we've got the Junk Jet. 1 red and 1 for artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, create a junk token. Pay 3, sack another artifact, double equipped creature's power until end of turn. This costs enough mana and requires enough sacrifice that it doesn't feel like cheesy doubling, because sometimes Wizards makes doubling or tripling effects that just feel so overpowered, but this is one you at least have to earn, right? Like if you want to quadruple your power, it's going to cost you 6 mana in activation fees and 2 artifacts as well. So that doesn't feel overpowered in my opinion. The idea behind the card is this was made by an engineer who was mocked by a bunch of people. He was actually going to go on a vengeance spree, but the reason that he didn't was the world went full on apocalypse before he could, so he never got a chance to. So when you find it in the game, this is his vengeance weapon that he never got to enact his vengeance with. After that, we've got Nick Valentine, the Private Eye, 1 blue and 2 for a 2/2. He is a synth, so he's a synthetic human, and he is a special prototype synthetic human, so he's very special compared to other ones. So he can't be blocked except by artifact creatures. And whenever he or another artifact creature you control dies, you can investigate. So he slowly but surely became part of a human settlement, earning their trust by helping them out, right? And he is a synth who has special technology compared to other ones. So he has more awareness of his own existence, but a bunch of his past is fated to him, including the fact that at the time he was created, another robot was created, and they're kind of like brothers. So he is an interesting character. And I like the fact that they made him a detective as well. Then we've got Perception Bobblehead. 3 casting cost. Tap it to add a mana of any color, or 3 and tap it. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. You may cast a spell with mana value 3 or less from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This feels pretty solid for an uncommon. And the bobbleheads are a theme that's going all across the entirety of the Fallout series, and as well as the obviously the Magic set as well. So there's a number of these different bobbleheads that give you different effects. Not too shabby. After that, we've got Pip-Boy 3000, your personal gear right here. Your personal I can't even remember what the PIP stands for right now. Personal information portal, something like that. It's 1 mana equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks, choose 1. Sort inventory, draw a card, then discard a card. Pick a perk, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Check map, untap up to 2 target lands. So having these different abilities mimics the fact that, like, when you're playing the game and you look at your Pip-Boy, it brings up a screen where you can manage your stats. It's essentially your status screen, right? You can change your equipment and everything using that. I like it. It's a very cool concept from the future where it's like, it's future tech, but it's also not like super OP. It's just about maintaining your life signs, and it's like a souped up Fitbit. And since we have stuff like that already, it just kind of feels like a natural extrapolation of what will be in the future, as opposed to things like when you see Star Trek, for example, where like people walk up to a wall and talk to a computer and nobody has cell phones, but they have like a little button on there where it's like you can talk to a computer or people, but you never use it to like search stuff up. You got to Google. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird comparatively. This just feels like it makes more sense. Anyhow, moving on to the next card, we've got a Powder Ganger. 1 red and 2, 2/2 human rogue with squad 2. When he enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact. So squad 2 is pretty straightforward. Every extra 2 mana you spend gives you another one of these. Destroying artifacts is a really solid ability because as Magic progresses, there's more and more crazy abilities. This is a really, really straightforward concept. The Powder Gangers are dudes who basically mounted a prison break and now run around as a gang blowing stuff up in the wildlands. They are not good people, right? But you know who is a good person? The Silver Shroud. We got the Silver Shroud costume. 2 mana, it's got flash. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains Shroud until end of turn. Equipped creature can't be blocked, and it equips for 3. So, I mean, it's not the most exciting equipment, let's be real. In terms of the power level, it's just okay. But you can put it out at instant speed, and the concept behind it is really neat. The idea is, in the game, you get convinced to go and get this costume for the Silver Shroud, and then you have the option of actually becoming the Silver Shroud, where you travel the wastelands doing good and helping people, and you even get special lines as if you're like the hero from an old-timey radio story. It is a very funky card from a flavor perspective. And speaking of the radio, I would be remiss if I did not speak of everyone's favorite DJ, 3 Dog, Galaxy News DJ, coming at you live from the wasteland, doing what's good for the people. So, this guy is a constant voice you hear coming out across the wasteland through the radio station and stuff, right? Talking about fighting the good fight. He's a touch of humanity when you're alone. So he's 1/5. Whenever you attack, you can pay 2 mana and sacrifice an aura attached to 3 Dog Galaxy News DJ. When you that really feels like an Unfinity name. When you sacrifice an aura this way, for each other attacking creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that aura attached to that creature. Now note, you don't have to attack with 3 Dog. So that's really, really cool. I really like the fact that you can slap enchantments on him, and then you can swing and go, I'll sack this enchantment on him, and it's on all of my other attacking creatures. Now, what I don't like about this is it starts to add insane complexity creep. Think about all the different tokens that are being generated now. We have those settlement tokens and stuff. Like, it gets to be cumbersome. It's fine here and there, but it is just something I wanted to touch on. The flavor text says, you're listening to Galaxy News Radio, bringing you the truth no matter how bad it hurts. So yeah, 3 Dog's got a great build around me vibe to him. He's there in the studio with his microphone. I like it. It's got good flavor. Then we've got Veronica, the dissident scribe. She is unhappy with the Brotherhood. 1 red and 2, 3/3 with menace. Whenever she attacks, you can discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards for the first time, each turn, create a junk token. You're going to be able to do this on your opponent's turn and your turn if you have discard outlets. Each time you do, you're cranking out junk. So like this just feels like an engine, honestly. The fact that they know, right? That's why they say for the first time each. They have to limit this stuff. Otherwise, it's just infinite combo town. So this is an interesting one for its potential. After that, we've got Yes Man, Personal Securitron. 1 white and 2 for a 2/2 legendary robot. he has the ability tap, target opponent gains control of Yes Man, personal Securitron. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on Yes Man. Activate only during your turn. And then he has Wild Card. When Yes Man leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tapped 1/1 white soldier creature token for each quest counter on it. This represents my least favorite type of ability on a Magic card. I really, really hate giving my cards to my opponent. I hate giving my opponent card draw, but I hate giving them my cards even more. It is deeply unsatisfying to me, but I like the card for its flavor potential, and I understand that other people love giving their cards to, well, here, have it, right? There's tons of people who play that way, but for me, that's a miss. But the idea behind this is a security robot that was taken and reprogrammed to automatically agree to everything, and then essentially was sent back to be a spy and take over the system that it's supposed to be guarding. So that's the idea. You basically, when you activate it, you're giving Yes Man to your opponent. You get to draw cards because you're gaining information about your opponent, and you put a quest counter on it because you're moving forward of your grand agenda of taking over. And ultimately, this leads to you gaining control of the entire Securitron force, which is where you get all these 1/1 soldier tokens from when Yes Man goes away, right? So ultimately, cool flavor for a very strange card that is the opposite of what I would pick to play with. Now, my friends, that wraps up all of the spoiler cards that we have to talk about today. If you want to discuss them or anything else, I'm going to be doing a live stream tonight on my other channel, so come on by and say hello. A big thank you to my patrons for supporting my channel. I love your monies. Thanks, guys. I will see you all for the next video.